creating a piece of art, it's very fulfilling to your soul. I joke and I say I have to make something every day. If I don't, I feel like the day has been a failure.
You go around the world and look at baskets that were made by the indigenous people, the locals. The material and the way the material worked dictated the design of the basket.
It's sharing something with people. You see, like let people know that it have Kalinago people still, and when you see a Kalinago work, you know, wow.
More than 25 years ago, we bought a number of these baskets to use as display items in our scuba diving shop. I've always loved the baskets, and not too long ago, I moved one, and I realized since Mr. Hassel's passing that this art form is dying. No one's made them for over a decade. So I found the American Basket Weaving Association and said, I wonder if there's any weavers in your association who might be interested in coming to our beautiful island to try to revitalize this and find out the history of this basket and how it relates to perhaps other weaving in the region. I also realized when I'd been to Dominica that there's a whole community of basket makers there that are the original Kalinago people. We thought it was important to bring in both perspectives of modern day basket makers who research history and culture, but also working with the Kalinago people who perhaps their basket making goes back thousands of years.
We were asked to come here to help try to recreate and teach people how to make a basket that was made here 50 years ago or 40 years ago.
The whole purpose was to recreate the Saba basket. As soon as I saw the picture, I realized I've done this before. So the only real challenge once we got here was the material, because Hoo-bush does not grow back at home.
I tried to get different contacts to know how the Saba basket was making, and everybody gave me a piece by there, and they told me, well, it was there. It was somebody was making it from somebody else was making it, but we just have to try to join it together and see how we could make a Saba basket.
One day in the soaking.
First thing I did was try to investigate what Hoo-bush was.
Yes.
When you Google Hoo-bush and basket on the internet, you get very interesting results. But it turned out that it is the hoop vine. It is a relative to the pokeweed family.
So the first thing we had to do was find it and find out what part of the bush we had to work with.
Oh, wow.
Originally we were given some of the green stalks with the leaves on them, and they were nice and long and straight, and it looked like this was going to be really easy, and we found out that that's not the part of the bush you use.
Not the limbs.
Not the limbs.
No, it was the root part.
Yeah.
And that root part bends.
So we got a lot of different information. Some was contradictory, and then we used that information to find the Hoo-bush, practice preparing it, and we learned a lot from what we heard from the family members, but a lot was just practice, hands-on experience, and what worked. Typically, anytime you work with a natural material, the actual construction of the basket is probably less than half the total time, because you have to harvest the material, prepare it to exactly what specifications you need for the basket, and then sit down and weave it.
The fun part was actually going out and trying to find usable pieces of the Hoo-bush. Sometimes you found pieces that worked, sometimes they didn't work.
And then after that we spent quite a lot of time stripping the bark and preparing all the materials that were needed to make the basket.
The thing about baskets is people like to see you when you sat down and you weave the basket and you get out something out of nothing.
Making the Saba basket was a learning experience for all of us, and we learned a lot of things as we went along. certain techniques that worked better than others.
Rotate just the sticks so your string is now back at 4 o'clock.
I didn't expect it to be quite the journey that we went on, but in the end, yes, it was enjoyable.
So it was also interesting for our students to meet Felis and hear his story about how he used crafts to earn a living. It was a creative opportunity for our students. They got to take part in something creative and make something with their hands.
The workshop was great. It was so refreshing to just see the teenagers just put down their iPads for a while, their iPhones, and just pay attention and take time to learn this Indigenous craft.
At the beginning part, it's always a struggle with the children. I don't think they can see the finished product. Once they sort of get the rhythm of the weaving, the meditative property of it, it gets a little bit more comfortable. And then when they see the basket finished, you see the smiles on their faces.
Each time I have in a class to weave basket, I always want them to go home with something. So I'm really happy about it. Everybody went home with something in their hand so they could say, I make it with Felis.
I heard one young lady whisper as she was leaving, "Can we make another one next week?" I love that.
Yeah, when I took my basket home, Agnes was the first one. She was all excited. She wants to learn how to make a basket. She's 10 years old. And if I can pass it on to her and she can pass it on to her kids.
If we don't do these things, eventually they will die out, and what will be left? What will be left to tell the story of Saba, and to tell the story of our ancestors? And that's why we have to continue to, try to take time to recreate these objects and also teach kids about how special it is.